Hi, and welcome to the Heart of a Perfectionist podcast. I'm your host, Tegan Thompson. I'm a book lover, a chocoholic, and an INTJ living in a world filled with extroverts. I made this podcast to share my experiences and struggles as an introverted perfectionist, and to bring the inner workings of an introvert's mind to introverts and extroverts alike. So grab a cup of tea and get comfortable. It's time to unmute. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Heart of a Perfectionist podcast. I can't believe it's almost already the end of October and we're going to be moving into November. Happy Halloween to everyone who celebrates it. But yeah, I just think it's so crazy. It's going to be November, and before we know it, we're going to be celebrating Thanksgiving, and then it's going to be December, and we're going to be celebrating Christmas and the New Year, and it's going to be 2022, and it's crazy. It just feels like this year has gone by so fast, but also I really enjoy this time of the year, so I'm really excited about it too. This week we will be talking about how ADHD presents itself in women compared to men. And I want to talk about this because there's a lot of stereotypes surrounding ADHD symptoms, and how it presents itself in people. And for a lot of people, when they think of ADHD, they're going to think, oh, okay, so that person is hyperactive and impulsive in a way that's socially disrupting to them. And this may include them being fidgety, or restless, talkative, just kind of very, very active and a lot of energy, right? However, these symptoms are most common in men, and there's actually 3 different ways you can experience ADHD, and one is this hyperactive, impulsive form of ADHD, and another form is inattentiveness, which is most seen in women, and then the third is a combination of both of them. So, like I mentioned, women tend to exhibit an inattentiveness when they have ADHD. And I'll kind of go more into that, but it's kind of just lack of attention. And because women tend to experience different symptoms when they have ADHD compared to men, women have been significantly underdiagnosed. And a big reason for this is because the symptoms that girls experience are often viewed as character traits rather than actual symptoms. So, you might, when you were in school and you were younger and there was that girl that was, she's always spacey, or they're very forgetful, or that girl's just really chatty, right? That's just kind of something that a lot of people have viewed as character traits or a type of personality, rather than potentially being ADHD, right? And this is harmful because women who do have ADHD and are not diagnosed with it then aren't getting treatment for it, and that can be really hurtful for them personally and in their day-to-day lives. And then also just them working to achieve the goals that they want can be really hard when they're not being treated for their ADHD. So I want to talk about some common signs of ADHD in women. And one of them is difficulty remembering important things, or just facts and information in general. In your relationship with someone who may have ADHD and they're a woman, they might forget your birthday, or they might forget the time that you scheduled to meet up, and they might be really late or something. Just very forgetful, and they might forget important dates. If they're in school and they have a paper due, and they might forget that, or if they're in work and they have a deadline, they might forget that. Just tend to be very forgetful about different things, and it can affect different areas of their lives. They might be more forgetful at work and not in their personal life. But another sign that is similar but different to men is having more energy. And I don't mean more energy where they're kind of like really fidgety and they like have to move and everything. I mean more energy in the way that they like to be busy. They like to have their schedule full, so that they're not having a lot of downtime. Or they might be more talkative, right? Like to talk and be chatty and friendly with you. However, even though they have more energy, social gatherings tend to be overwhelming for them. And I don't just mean parties and stuff like that. I also mean like the busy and very overwhelming environments of being at work or just being at school. And those different environments may make them feel overwhelmed and hard to interact or perform in those environments. Another sign is that your mind often wanders or drifts. And this may just be like when you're just like kind of relaxing and not really doing anything, and your mind just kind of like goes all over the place. Or maybe you're talking to someone and you can't pay attention to what they're saying because your mind just wants to take you somewhere else, right? This most often happens when you're not very interested in it, because someone who is interested in a specific topic, they probably their mind isn't gonna wander as much because their mind wants to be on that topic. So you find it hard to listen to other people and pay attention to them because of your mind wandering and drifting. In contrast, women with ADHD tend to hyper-focus on things that interest them. And this is very different from men who have the stereotypical hyperactive and impulsive form of ADHD, because when you hyper-focus, people are going to think, oh, they're very attentive on that, they're very calm and devoted and passionate about it, and so it's kind of very different from what you would expect. But it can be difficult when you only want to focus on that, or your time gets wasted because you've spent way too much time focusing on that one thing compared to the other things that you need to do. And that kind of falls under also difficulty staying organized. And I don't just mean like your personal space. Like part of it is you might have a lot of clutter in your personal or your work or school space, but also staying organized may be difficult in terms of managing their money, and they might overspend when they don't set a budget for themselves, or they've realized last minute they need to go get a present or an outfit or something, and then they go out and they overspend on that. Also with managing their time, as I mentioned earlier, like focusing on one thing rather than other things that you need to also focus on, and spending a lot of time and dedicating a lot of time to that one thing when there are other things that you need to focus on as well. So those are a few of the common signs of ADHD in women that I have to share with you. I want to make sure that I tell you guys that it's important to remember that while anyone can experience any combination of these symptoms, sometimes people are just naturally disorganized and they find it hard to stay organized in that way, or sometimes people are social and they love to talk and they're very talkative or whatever, right? It's important to remember that ADHD symptoms are symptoms and not character traits, when they become disruptive to your day-to-day life, or they make you feel out of place also. So if it's really not harmful or disrupting your life and the way you want to live, and you not disrupting you in achieving the goals you want, then it may just be more of a minor character trait that isn't as significant as a symptom. So it becomes a symptom when it disrupts your life. And then also I want you guys to know that it's okay to get help, to seek help and to get treatment, because once you do that, you can feel better about yourself and you can go and achieve those goals you've set for yourself. And then also just being supportive, the fact that ADHD symptoms are different in women than men is just starting to be talked about a lot more now. And there's a lot of women who have gone undiagnosed their whole lives and aren't getting diagnosed until they're in their 20s or 30s, 40s, maybe 50s. And that might be a lot to take for them. It's shocking news, and to know that, something simple like this that has treatment available could have helped them their whole lives. It's very hard for them. So just make sure that you're being supportive for them, and just like you want people to be supportive of you. So thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of the Heart of a Perfectionist podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, or if you learned anything new, please go share it with a friend. And as always, have a good weekend, and I look forward to seeing you guys again next week on the Heart of a Perfectionist podcast. Wow.